So what I'd like to share with you tonight is an excerpt from my work in progress, which is titled, as you know, Pandemic Baby, Letters to My Grandson Before He Could Read. And it's a memoir in 4 parts. So this excerpt begins toward the end of the second part, which is the journal I was keeping from March to November of 2020. Okay. Sunday, October 31st, 2020. The election will be over soon, and my deepest hope is that Trump loses and leaves office peacefully. But I don't trust that either will happen. Trump has unleashed violence in this country. During the Trump presidency, hate crimes in the US have surged by almost 20%, according to a recent FBI report. He has made evil acceptable by far too many, and by doing so, he promotes civil unrest. I hope he accepts defeat without conflict. I also hope a COVID vaccine is available sooner rather than later. On a bright note, a hummingbird drinks from the front feeder, and the setting moon is full and gorgeous. 4 days before the presidential election, our child care routine began. Yesterday was Jack's first full day here with me. Tom and I chuckled about the comprehensive care plan and schedule Erin typed up for us, so like the one we gave her own first babysitter decades earlier. It was a lovely day, despite Jack's difficulty sleeping. I suppose the smells and sounds of our home were different, and the pack and play did not feel the same as his crib at home. He eventually nodded off there for the first nap, but the second and third he fell asleep in my arms. The fourth was a mini nap in the stroller. We took a walk, and it was wonderful. Another sunny fall day, the colors brilliant. Between each nap, Jack played and had a bottle of his mother's expressed milk, and then played some more. He is a happy, smiley baby, full of curiosity. No wonder he struggles to sleep in this new environment. This will take mental adjustment on my part. I need to let go of all else. No writing or chores or even cooking on Jack days, at least until he settles into a routine. Each week I need to plan 1 or 2 totally empty days. I need to be up and ready when Elliot and Jack arrive, and I need to have dinner ready in advance. I'm happy to help the kids with childcare, especially during these difficult times. I'm even happier to know that I'm building a wonderful bond with this special little person. I hope it doesn't end when he starts preschool or kindergarten. Maybe I can do after-school care when he gets older, so we can continue our special time together. November 1, 2020, 223,035 deaths in the United States. Quote, Biden wants to lock down our country, maybe for years. Crazy. There will be no lockdowns. The great American comeback is underway. President Trump, November 1st, 2020. Tuesday, November 3rd, 2020. It's early morning election day, a day of deep anxiety and anticipation. A day I hope will end peacefully with Trump conceding to Biden. But odds are it won't be that easy. That Trump will fight dirty and rally his supporters and do everything he can to disrupt the peaceful transfer of power. I do not want to see violence in the streets. Wednesday, November 4, 2020. Yesterday, Election Day, Trump carried 23 states and 213 electoral college votes, with neither candidate holding the required 270 and too many uncounted ballots remaining. No president-elect was declared on election night. But that did not stop Trump. In the early hours today, he declared victory and claimed the remaining uncounted ballots should be thrown out due to fraud. November 5, 2020, a rough day with Jack. Is he teething, fighting a cold? Whatever it is, he's been fussy about eating, sleeping, and life in general. I wonder if he feels the anxiety in the air. I'm trying to keep a lid on it, but it's hard. The election still has not been determined. Biden is ahead with 264 to Trump's 214 electoral college votes, while 5 states are still counting ballots. I wish Trump would concede, but odds are he'll fight the results for weeks or even months in the courts. It's nerve-wracking. But now Jack sleeps, so all is well in our tiny world. Yesterday, in typical West Seattle style, people were dancing in the 4-way junction crosswalk with each light change. Music blasted from Easy Street Records, cars honked, and the mood felt reminiscent of post-war jubilation. A new government and a new era will begin in January 2021 when the Biden-Harris administration is sworn in. But Trump has not conceded, so perhaps jubilation is premature. A heavy weight was lifted from the hearts of 50.6% of the voters as of today's ballot count. But 47.7% voted to re-elect Trump. The road ahead will not be easy, but for many, it is time of celebration. The first female vice president will be BIPOC, South Asian mother, Jamaican father, and daughter of immigrants. I feel more hopeful than I have in the past 4 years. Yet the problems are huge. The pandemic is spiking worldwide and the US economy is tanking with an unemployment rate of 7.9%. Fortunately, systematic racism is finally being addressed on the national stage, and hopefully the environmental crisis will be tackled as well. What a mess of a world we are leaving, you and your generation, my little one. But I have a sliver of hope now. A new government with a different agenda might, with great effort, be able to put an end to the pandemic and write the course of history. Part 3, Letters to Jack, November 2020 to July 2022. Wednesday, November 11, 2020. Dear Jack, after almost a year of keeping a pandemic journal, it shifted to something different, something more. Upon rereading the final paragraph of that last entry, I realized I was addressing you directly. So I've decided to shift to letter writing because it feels more meaningful, even if you never read them. The presidential election was called on November 7th, with the Biden-Harris Democratic ticket winning, but Trump still refuses to concede. He has no respect for the democratic process and is an embarrassment to our country worldwide. A perfect example of the kind of man your parents, grandpa, and I never want you to become: a racist, misogynistic, greedy, dishonest, self-aggrandizing braggart. But we're not worried about you, my beautiful little boy. You will become all he is not. Right now, hope and fear still dominate national and state politics, as well as daily life. But I trust there will be a presidential transition in January. With the Biden administration in power, I believe a COVID vaccine will be developed and distributed equitably bringing this horrible pandemic under control. I enjoy seeing your dad on the days he drops you off and picks you up. Because of the COVID pandemic, he's working at home. Your mom is still working in the Harborview Emergency Department. Your grandpa is working far too many hours, which is why you don't see him much. He started a cannabis manufacturing business in summer of 2014 after recreational cannabis was legalized in Washington state. Building the business has been a long struggle. It was a huge risk in a new industry, but he wanted to build a business he could sell, and that dream blinded him. Grandpa is an amazing artist. In addition to working long days at his new business, he's also doing touch-ups on former projects and creating new murals as he tries to make ends meet. He says he'll be out of the cannabis business in 2 years, Jack, December 2022 at the latest. I truly hope so. He needs to take better care of himself. Maybe Toby will help. Toby is your dog. Well, he's your parents' dog. They adopted him in Ellensburg, where they were living while your dad finished his degree at Central Washington University. The shelter couldn't tell your parents how long Toby had been feral, but he is certainly an alpha dog with some very odd quirks, like his intense fear of smoke alarms and stoves. He was the center of their lives until you came along. Now he's jealous, especially when mom's at work and dad's alone with both of you. The other day, he growled at you. So now Toby comes to our house when you are at home and goes back to your house when you're here. Maybe sharing Toby with Grandpa will make life easier for you and give Grandpa a healthy distraction. Time will tell, but I think we've inherited a dog. Tuesday, November 17, 2020. Dear Jack, yesterday I canceled our Thanksgiving plans. For decades, Grandpa and I have hosted a large dinner for family and friends. We moved the kitchen table into the dining room to create an extension to serve 13 or 14 people. We've even squeezed in as many as 20 a few times, but not this year, not with COVID intruding on every aspect of life. Your mom and I spent weeks toying with options. We both longed for the sense of normalcy holiday traditions carry. She's worried that at 5 months you still have very few people in your life. Only a handful have held your sweet, tiny body in their arms. So we came up with a plan for an outdoor afternoon buffet. Grandpa and I bought a large white tent for the backyard, a fire pit for the front, and managed outdoor seating for all. I sent out an invitation explaining limited bathroom access with masks, asking everyone to stick to 6-foot distancing, and suggested dressing for the cold weather. Everyone was excited and accepted, offering to bring favorite side dishes. Then the predicted COVID spike began. Cases and deaths in King County, as well as across the country and around the globe, began to rise. Last Saturday, November 15, Governor Inslee issued new guidelines and restrictions. Grandpa had never been keen on the idea of celebrating the holiday, believing that socializing of any kind wasn't worth the risk. He favored cancellation. I waited until Monday to talk with your mom, and together we agreed that Grandpa was right. Then I had to email the family. That was a hard email to write. What is autumn without Thanksgiving? When an older sister responded telling me I'd made the right decision, I found myself crying. I have shed few tears since this horrible year began, but canceling Thanksgiving, knowing any sort of Christmas or New Year's celebrations are also unlikely, I struggle to see beyond the long, dark stretch of winter ahead. You, little Jack, are the light for the four of us, your small pod of parents and grandparents. You give us purpose, laughter, and joy with neither awareness nor intention. You simply are. By your very existence, you offer a lesson on being present in the moment without past or future. Thank you.
So thanks for coming. What a great night. I am going to be reading from the book, but at roughly the same time that, or right before I did the long stay in Guanajuato, I also spent 3 months in Seville, Spain. That was the beginning of the itinerary for the year of the writing life. So I was in Guanajuato, and then I was going to be in Seville, Spain, and then I had a very, very different itinerary, and then COVID came. So I went back and stayed in Guanajuato. So here are 2 poems that were written around the time. They've got a different feel to them, though, because I was in Spain. Not Mexico, and because I was earlier in the process of having lived outside of the country for a year. This is called Beneath Aracena, and it was inspired by a really spectacular natural cave under the village of Aracena, which is in the Huelva province of Andalusia, and in Spanish it's called La Gruta de las Maravillas, or the Cave of Wonders. Beneath the earth's surface, time is silent, languid, its formations otherworldly, some millions of years in the making. 1,000 years from now, gazers will see just a centimeter of growth. The caves are dark, hushed, humid. Calcium-rich water plunks quietly from limestone stalactites, on stalagmites reaching up to meet them, on crystalline lakes that host no living organism, on my head. Everywhere I look, something looks like something else. A face with 2 black dot eyes, a bridal veil of intricate lace, a wedding gown with thick ivory folds, seashells, candlesticks, the princess's bathtub. So many wings, birds, eagles, owls, the pair I could swear belonged to an angel. This is tierra that makes me believe in those who once dwelt here. Angels, saints, virgins, shepherds, mermaids, creatures that flew or slithered, and in the blink of an eye that hadn't seen daylight, wandered to the clear emerald water, slipped in to bathe with the princess. In the final chamber, phalluses and buttocks and breasts and bellies tantalize, satiny, seductive as Martin Riesco's Bachante, luxuriating in marble, shaped by nothing more than the weight of minerals pulling water from air and rock, the absence of the human hand. My desire swells. You guide us to the royal bathtub, unhurriedly undress, your flesh tinged golden like oil from your pueblo, my fair foreigner's flesh prickled with goosebumps. You step in without a flinch. The pure cold water shocks as you lay me down. Barely submerged, we burnish. Emerald green flints your blue eyes. 1,000 years go by before we close the centimeter between our lips. Wings form from your shoulder blades. You caress the scales of my emerging tail. Cocooned in our cave within the cave, visitors take no notice. Although one thinks she sees an angel kissing a mermaid, laughs at the improbability, walks on. Thank you. And the setting for it, the inspiration was being in a train station in Seville, the Santa Justa train station, and realizing that I had been there before. And this ended up published in New Note Poetry in autumn of 22, a slightly different version. Santa Justa Sonata. Waiting to board for Cadiz in the slate gray Sevilla Santa Justa lobby, I'm surprised. I've been here before. Memories tumble and bounce like marbles, skitter, scatter, roll under chairs, past doorways, into the soulless, time-distorting car return kiosk that turned weariness to slow-moving rage. Into the shop where 3 years ago I bought a tube of dark mahogany number 2, lipstick you never grew to like. All through the Andalusian countryside, your grave, heavy-hearted countenance strummed, discordant with my traveler's capriccio. Free from responsibility, I was mesmerized by rows of sunflowers drooping their large brown heads as you squinted to read highway signs, navigated reservations and timetables without speaking ni una palabra of the language. I remember now how much I wanted our rhythms to resonate, how alone I felt after our allegro gave way to a slow, measured andante. You content to languish in the key of slow caress, me reaching for modulations in timbre and tone, progressions that would spark a dance, or at least a poem where sunflowers slumped into metaphor. I kept trying to sing you in my own key, wanted bronze lips to transform my pink-hued skin Española, a make-believe identity I believed in more than I believed in us. Maybe it's this you didn't warm to, not the shade. I returned to the cosmetic store, purchase a tube of mauve-based nude. My body hums to the sway of the high-speed train. Okay. And I do have copies of the book available on the back. I read from the galley copy, so it doesn't really look like this anymore. It's prettier. But this one's all mucked up. So Dreaming in Cantera, Sueños en Cantera, it is bilingual. Some poems came first in Spanish, and then I translated them into English. Some came first in English, and then I translated them into Spanish. I had beautiful help editing the English versions of the poem, and I had 2 fantastic Spanish-speaking poets help with the Spanish translations, but they were also very generous and did not want translation credit for the book. It's about a journey. It takes the shape of a journey. So the book is in 4 parts. So basically, in order to go on any journey, the first thing that you have to do is you got to leave. You got to go somewhere. You got to walk out the front door and you got to go. And the second thing that happens on a journey is all the experiences that you have because you left. The third part of the arc that I came to find was these exquisite moments of belonging, of feeling like you've come home. It might not be a home you've ever been to before, but somehow it feels home, or it feels homer than home. And then the book ends with a 4th section, which I call Setting Out Again, because if you do have a journey and you find out that you are a journeyer, you will have to go again. So I'm just going to read 4 poems from the book, not from the last section. Those are longer poems and some prose poems, and I want to leave you a little something in the book if anyone's interested. So the first one is called A Truer Tale. One of the things to know for this poem is Guanajuato, Mexico, which was where I did the long stay, is known for its silver mining. At one time, it was the largest silver extraction center in the world, and it still has active silver mines. This is called A Truer Tale. Don't give me love made of sunlight, youth, tan and taut on beaches reborn with each wave. Don't tell me stories of rainbows or puppies, a princess nor her knight on a spirited steed. Give me love made in torrents that breach the threshold. Dim light, heavy as a suffocating blanket over shivering bodies. Love made of lightning's thunderclap, the taste of rocks, the feel of blade on wrists. Tell me of love immutable over time, of pink Cantera stone seared by relentless Sierra sun, surviving conquest, domination. Our love leaves me digging with my hands toward bedrock my fingers can't reach, scratching toward your silver bones, dirt obscuring my attempts to bring you back to our storytelling nights. Don't tell me of the promise of a new day. When daylight blues the sky, absence is more brutal than love's sharp edges. This is called, thank you, String of Broken Promises. And in this poem, I weave together some Mexican legends, like of the woman called La Llorona, the crying woman, a woman who made the fateful error of drowning her children in the attempt to win back the love of her unfaithful husband. It didn't go so well for her. And there are some local legends in Guanajuato which include mummies. There are bodies that are still mummified by the minerals and the soil contents in Guanajuato. String of Broken Promises. Beware the enchantment of legends. The princess who lives in the bluffs, famed with beauty no lover can resist, awaiting the suitor who overcomes all false temptations. She waits still. The soil with minerals so rich, not even death takes the boots, dress, eyes, teeth, or hair. Vanity here persists after the grave. The weeping woman in white, cursed to wander in endless grief for drowning her children. Remorse comes too late for jealous rage. Sacrifices made to ill-suited love. The minstrels who play and lure thousands of years after their devil's pact. No longer able to love a mortal, they roam the cafes, streets, symphonies, strumming, arcing wild horse hairs taut across vibrating strings, fingering ivory keys and curved, sensuous necks. 1,000 sonatas, 1,000 shots of mezcal, yet they remain hollow. The woman who offers shelter, a cup of wine, her ivory neck upturned, love 1,000 kisses deep, nothing will reach the vacant chamber where his heart once beat. Seeing only his gleam and potential, she accepts his trinkets, unstrung pearls, unhinged jewelry case, broken promises. On the night when the moon is almost full and strong March winds mask the howls of wild dogs and La Llorona, music swells on the streets, moves light-footed through arches, bridges, tunnels. Darkness hides the crumbled disrepair. Limestone wash cracks off ancient stone walls. Poets and pilgrims see this as beauty, a story not at its end. Oh, traveler, you have succumbed to the enchantment of the ruined, the romance of the decay. Okay. And I think I've got time for one more. Okay, so this is from the third section of the book, that sense of meetings that feel like home. And it's called Watching Saturn Rise. Spotlights illuminate the neoclassical Teatro Juarez, the Baroque dome of the Basilica de Nuestra Señora de Guanajuato, the green and white cantera of the Universidad, creating an Orion's belt from which I navigate home. Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn have risen early. They brew their first cup and gaze into the still black. Mars, who was up first, greets Jupiter. Both chide sleepy Saturn. All three offer the tiniest curl of a smile to the early riser on this planet's Mexican hillside. Abandoned decades ago by the gods of sleep, we awaken in brisk darkness, wrap ourselves in awe and wonder, an old sweater that will become oppressively warm. We lean on the balcony, step outside, or stand at the kitchen window, coffee quickly cooling. We have only 3 phases, our rise, our set, and the arc we draw between them. Each day, too, has these phases, yet this is not enough to break slumber's spell. What rouses us is the awareness of being closer to the set than the rise. Mars has already died. Jupiter is slowly shrinking. Saturn is losing its rings to its own gravity. I, too, have survived deaths, lost an inch of stature, watched 3 shimmering rings slip like rain in magnetic storms. We'll meet again tomorrow morning. Send a silent greeting, a nod of encouragement. There is still something we each must do in the arc of our journey until we travel no more. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate being here. Poem starter 1507. It is the imperfections the best of us sings out. Poem starter 1508. Try not to dislike yourself so much that you don't trust people who seem to like you. Poem starter 1516. Not all manure is the same. Ask the tomato. City's sacristy. If I whispered as we walked on the path in Seward Park into the old-growth forest, yes, just south of the city is an old-growth forest, that, this place is sacred, would you stop texting on your goddamn phone? Not a poem about sauerkraut. I'm sorry if you don't know boobies or have decided you don't like sauerkraut. You might if you try boobies, or if you grew up near an East Coast delicatessen or had a mom or grandma that made sauerkraut right. Not all sauerkraut is the same. And one of the very best you can buy in stores is from Canada, distributed by a company in Ventura, California. But it tastes of the type I grew up with in New York. And correctly pronounced, boobies, slang for boobala or grandma, because it's grandma sauerkraut, though west of the Mississippi, it's called bubbies. This isn't a commercial. This is a poem, and it really isn't about sauerkraut. There is a song from 1984 by Foreigner called I Want to Know What Love Is. There are better songs, to be sure. But it's a popular one, and it may now be stuck in your head because I reminded, sorry about that. It fits here because of where I'm going with this scribble. To live life best, you know you have to do it without embarrassment. Sing as if no one is listening, dance as if no one is watching, and love as if you have never had your heart broken before. You must be foolish and take the risk, and have faith that the one you are with is risking and leaping right along with you. If you are blessed, you'll get everything from subtle hints to loud, ear-piercing shouts that the one you're with loves you as much as you love them. It has to be shared. It has to be reciprocal. And it has to be both very, very easy and very, very hard. And both of you have to be ready and willing and know its worth and value. One recent example from my Mr. Toad's Wild Ride of a Life recently happened. There was a conversation. I said, I need to pay closer attention to my diet. I need to eat a little more broccoli and a few other things. And then she says, does that include eating sauerkraut? If this was a TV sitcom, cue the Danny Thomas spit take. Yes, I used to eat sauerkraut on a regular basis and have gotten out of the habit of it. So should someone who loves you make sure you have boobies in your refrigerator? Some of you may still not completely understand all that this means. She knows about sauerkraut being a good, healthy addition to your diet. She knows about the best sauerkraut you can buy from a store on the West Coast. And a few days later, she brought a jar of boobies to put into my refrigerator. I should also mention this caring and interest in helping to keep me as healthy as possible. This is not a commercial. This is a poem. This is not a poem about sauerkraut. It's about love. How it works, how it shows up in your life if you pay attention and find the right person to dance and sing with, even if you don't have a license to dance or sing. You should also know that this person did not stay in my life very long. If it was a movie, there would have been a happy ever after ending fade out, but life, of course, is not a movie. And love is confusing. And it's more than boobies sauerkraut. But we can still hope and dream and believe completely in love, or at least in boobies. Not the New Yorker poem. This is the poem that a few drafts ago reminded me of many I've seen in the New Yorker magazine. Almost about something, but not quite sure what. A sense of longing and loss, but without any sentimentality. That is good, I think. But the exact meaning, obtuse, purposefully so. It could be about so much and about nothing at all. So many, many, many published poems are like this one. And then I wander from the poem itself. There is a silverfish on the floor of the bathroom, a very clean bathroom, but there it is, the intruder. Such a strange creature, the way it moves, and I exaggerate in my mind what it is, what it can do, as if it has become some nightmare moment in a horror film. It feels my warmth, wriggles incredibly fast to attack my foot, burrow into my skin, where in a few seconds it will expand rapidly. It cannot do anything like this. I go back to the poem, forgot everything about it, as I often do with the poems in this magazine, even the ones by people I have heard of. People whose poems are sometimes very, very good, though in the New Yorker, most of the poems do not connect with me at all. Maybe they are very good, but I do not know why this one, out of many hundreds, if not thousands, that could have been chosen to appear here, is in this space. I'm reading it, forcing a connection that may not be intended, but okay, a connection of some sort is the intention, but it's just a connection, and I must finish its meaning or non-meaning or just feel a vague connection, like a smell from my childhood at the old Yankee Stadium in the early 1960s, a combination of smells. I reread the poem, concentrating on it now, but still not finding it memorable. I must remember to get borax, which I believe will kill the silverfish. They creep me out. On our walk today, it opens with a quote from William Carlos Williams. If they give you lined paper, write the other way. On our walk today, we notice the red buds about to burst from the berry bushes, the flying waves from the berry bushes, the flying waves of dozens of swallows filling up on late afternoon insects silhouetted on the deep blue sky just above one of my favorite mature willow trees. Oh, the cloud shapes were beautiful. She was walking in these wetlands with me for the very first time. We were looking forward to watching the second half of the film Patterson. I had seen the quirky little film before. She had not. She, like I, enjoys the actor Adam Driver and small, quirky films. I had been meaning to take her on one of my favorite local walks, but the weather had not cooperated for several weeks. Just before the walk, something amazing happened. I write amazing because of everything revealed in what happened and how it further deepened our connection. We stopped by my place. I pulled the selected poems of William Carlos Williams from my shelf. He is very much part of the film Patterson we are watching, and Caroline wanted to read a few poems of his. She looked at the book and was convinced it was the book she used to have. The book opened right up to her poem, her favorite poem, the one about the plums, called This Is Just to Say. She gasped, asked me to read the poem twice. She was surprised to find out it was also one of my favorite poems. This sort of thing is happening a lot. And then on the walk, we observed a beaver just a few feet away. She had not been this close to a beaver, watching her for several minutes, nibbling on wild grasses just a few feet away from us. We noticed another beaver a few yards away, and then yet another. In all, we saw 7 different beavers, the entire brood of beavers that were living in the wetlands. I had never seen so many beavers on a walk in my life. Okay, I said, this is really something. Yes, she agreed. Wow. I squeezed her hand as we continued our sunset walk. She asks, did I really say wow? Maybe, I say. Not just another 50-foot woman poem. Allison Hayes is now 50 feet tall, very angry at two-timing husband Harry. She knocked over billboards, ripped off the roof of the local bar, squashed Harry and his slut, and then realizes she'd never seen New York City. She started crawling through the Lincoln Tunnel, but got tired of getting on her knees. Besides, there's a giant radioactive praying mantis that the Army is trying to destroy. After getting acquitted of her crimes in a trial the press called a 3-ring circus, she was disappointed with the news that Colonel Manning, aka the Amazing Colossal Man, did not wait for her and instead got very angry, went on a rampage, and got a big hole punched in his face from falling into the Hoover Dam. They should have been made for each other, but his anger management issues made him more interested in knocking over Vegas casino billboards and seeing the Los Angeles Griffith Observatory. Just what it is about the Griffith Observatory that so many 50s icons from James Dean to Invisible Aliens find so enticing anyway. I don't know. The 50-foot woman's fingers are too big to try online dating, and she can't get into any of the local clubs. So it's off to this land of giants place she heard so much about to find a suitable mate. She's going to be upset when she finds out it was a phony TV show canceled 3 decades ago and the props were sold off before there was even an eBay. Her last publicist explained the public is fickle and being a fad, even as big a one as she is, leaves you lonely and forgotten pretty fast. Life stinks for a woman made larger than life by a horny old alien giant who took the big diamond she had around her neck and then took off at the first sign of trouble without even so much as a goodbye kiss. The 50-foot woman is angry at life. It's impossible to find clothes that fit right, let alone shoes. She tries to stay positive and calm and is open to lots of possibilities. She's available for car shows, boat launchings, mall openings, and block party entertaining. Maybe they'll build her a big showroom in Vegas if her singing lessons go well. Alex, would you like to come up here for a moment or two? Our big finale.
What you got in store for me?
Oh, I got a little poem, and then we'll do a couple of poem starters. Okay. Anytime you're ready, sir.
We do this once in a while.
I know. You've gotten better.
So have you.
Poem starter 1502. Sometimes it's actually quite sensible to stay out and walk in the rain. Poem starter 1527. Attention is a longer word than span. Time on its side. Lost track of time again. Time keeps moving. Runs fast. Run slow. Some will insist, but in reality, time is steady as she goes. Objects are time sensitive. Time doesn't feel anything. Where does the time go, she asks. I know. Should I tell time about time and say time isn't lost at all? Time doesn't wait. Time doesn't even tell. Humans say time is money. It is not. Not money, not part-time, not full-time, just time. Time is time again. Always time. Good to know there is always time. So where does time go? Look there. Time is up. Thank you very much.
The fall. In the dark alley, afraid of being run over, an old man felt the urge to try speed walking. Forgetful of age, dignity, he did spur his limbs to their utmost. The result was shocking. Right foot caught in a raise of the alley floor was held back. The left kept moving forward. The left right, the right being wrong, our old man toppled to the ground. Arms spread eagled, he dropped groundwards, age, instinct, experience making a parachute. Alas, despite all their combined efforts, he did himself to Mother Earth prostrate. But for his extended proboscis, Cyrano knows his head would have smitten the alley floor, rendering him concussed, fractured or worse. The nose absorbed all injury with dauntless valor. Ugly on a par with the nose of Bergerac, the bruising had gotten was just decorative. Its eyeglasses had crash landing onto the tarmac, had many a scratch, potentially expensive. Unschooled by numerous prior falls, the victim quickly scrambled to his feet. Like most multiple fall survivors, he had ridden ambulances or stood upright. The online first aid guide recommends the toppled to rise slow, systematically, exploring the body. Those who prefer the bad news before the good push-pull themselves up towards the sky. For a righteous person falls 7 times and rises again, but the wicked stumble in time of disaster. Proverbs 24:16. Was falling flat on his face of wickedness a sign, or simply a lapse on the part of the Creator? The poem is dedicated to C&P Coffee.
Jennifer, being also a visual artist, has a item that she's passing around to share. So I'm Michelle Kohler, and I'm reading tonight for Jennifer. This is her introduction. I went back and forth for work with an artist in residence gigs and work with designers in South Carolina and Georgia for 8 years. Hudson was an interior designer, and we became good friends. The drawing is how Hudson told me he would greet his Yankee friends from New York with his own special brand of Southern hospitality. It's all true. All right, is the sound okay? Okay. Versailles sofas. Sometimes I would stay with my designer friend Hudson. He owned a grand house on Millington Avenue. It had tall white porch pillars like a municipal city hall. There were cobwebby rooms and all the stairs creaked. Hudson owned many sofas upholstered with velvet and satin framed in rococo gilt wood like the ones in Versailles, but fake. He had 2 in his living room, 1 in his bathroom, 1 in his laundry, and 2 for each of the 8 upstairs bedrooms. He would rise to my bedroom each Sunday morning on complaining old stairs, arriving with toast, strawberry jam, and coffee in fine china cups. I'd scoot over, Hudson would settle his bulk next to me on the canopied bed. His bunny slippers squeaked as he wiggled his toes while we read the weekly funnies. Then we would dress to drive west in his mother brown Cadillac along Highway 20 to meet with his client, a distraught young blonde who desperately sought his advice for her tiny front room. Drapes, Hudson pronounced, with damask peach fabric that puddles of folds spread out on the floor. Her husband upstairs banging about in the unfinished bedroom. When we left, I proposed that perhaps Hudson could offload a few of his sofas to his new client, and also that small chandelier he had hung in his laundry. Hudson shot me a look, and I kept my mouth shut. His Cadillac lumbered along the slow lane. It had buttons to push. The windows purred up and down all together. I swear that they smoked, but perhaps it was dust. He'd suddenly veer off the highway to screech to a stop by a sad little store selling fake antique fixtures and glassware you won if you bought enough cornflakes. Hudson would buy a lopsided chair, declare good lines. You will glue it, make it upright, and paint it all fuchsia, with, of course, lots of gold leaf to set off the trim. It will go to a client, or maybe I'll keep it. Once at the gallery where I worked in reception, Hudson came by to gossip with Lucia, my boss. He left me alone to chat up a designer I never liked much. Hudson's too lavish, she said. I said that I liked him, and he owned 12 Versailles sofas. She puzzled why Hudson never got married. I said he was gay. She was shocked. No, he just loves his mother, she said. A few years ago, Lucia wrote me on Facebook that Hudson had died in his mother's old home in her town of Blythe, Georgia. Perhaps my dear friend, now a cherub in heaven, places rococo sofas all over his cloud home for all of his friends. Real Versailles sofas with lavish gold leaf on their curly-Q frames.
So this is a time of truth-telling. So I have a couple of truth-telling poems and one serious one. Not the serious one, as Chris would say. The power of semantics. Having set out a couple of months ago to lose weight and measure my progress every day, this day, glancing at the scale, I observed that my weight has changed exactly 0.0 pounds. Exactly. So I've decided to change instead the name of my program from weight loss to weight maintenance and declare it a smashing success. It worked. You like that way? I know. This is hard, losing weight, the hardest thing. Okay, this is a serious one. So this is called Red Shift. It was a kind of tender moment back when my kids were really little. As the sun tips and flirts with the red horizon, the trees and road signs flip past our car window. The boys strapped in their seats chatter about the crows they saw, hopping what they insisted was a jig on the petrified branches by the gorge. Amused by their wonder and excitement, I let go of the fear I had felt as they stood near the edge, taunting gravity, turning their backs to danger. And then, as we were wrapped in the slipstream of our winding down this road, stars blinked into view above the sunset, and our headlights raised the bright yellow lines which pull us toward home. Decades later, this is my memory. But what is theirs? As they are now scattered, their own bright stars flung as if on separate arms of a galaxy out to the edges and beyond. So I get along really well with my ex-wife. I mean, it's all blood over the dam, right?
You've been working on that.
Yeah. So this is Brad shit, yeah, the wrong one. This is called balance. But I caught myself really, oh, well, I get along well with my ex-wife. Aren't I a good guy? Such a good guy. Well, it's a little bit too self-congratulatory. So I caught myself in that, balance. I hope my ex-wife is well. Free from ailments and pain and life-threatening things. I really wish that for her. It's been well over a decade since the Troubles. And a lot of water has passed under the bridge. That bridge that no longer carries much of anything. But I hope she's happy. I do. But not too happy. Like ecstatic or anything that would be too much like revenge. Yet I do hope things are going well for her. But not too well. Just well enough, So I guess I hope she's having a good time, but not too good a time in places like Monaco or Biarritz. Just good enough, in Duluth maybe. And I hope she misses me just a little, but not too much. I hope she misses me just a little, but not too much. Miss me just a little, but not too much. Miss me just a little, but not too much. That's it.
Started a new project. It's a bunch of when you buy a book and you read the back and it's stuff on the dust cover. I'm writing dust cover synopsis of my books. This is the third one. This is called The Corn Solution. You've been hit with it when everything around you is bathed in candlelight, even though it's noon. Nothing is too banal to be entrancing. The company lunchroom looks like a Tahitian hut at sunset. The local car wash wafts aromas of honeysuckle and gardenia. String quartets perform on every street corner. It's January, yet a warm, salty breeze locates and tickles the nape of your neck. So you think this is love. Quick, before the sound of violins turns to the whine of oboes in mourning. Give this test to the object of your affection. It's called the cornography test. You have them eat a piece of corn.
Thank you very much. 3 of my poems were recently accepted for publication by a book publisher in the United Kingdom, and I'll share those with you this evening. The first one is called The Thin Ice of Old Age. We all skate on the thin ice of old age, watching others skate nearby as the cracks grow slowly, and we see others suddenly falling through the ice into the chasm of uncertainty. Sometimes the slush melts or the fissures grow deeper, and we lose those who we love as they silently slip through the ice that was once our favorite playground during the days of future past. Much too often, the phone rings, the emails alert us, and the texts are alarming. Another friend, another family member has slipped on the ice in a spot that's thin and cracked. And we are forced to wait, and much too often to eventually deeply grieve. And in the waiting, amidst the worry and concern, we reflect on the pond on which we all skate, recalling the time that we have lived, the loves that we have known, both the blessings and the blight, the alpha and omega. It's the simple circle of life from sunrise to sunset. I always thought that getting old would have taken much longer. But alas, here we all are. Many of us caught off guard, stunned by the immediacy of the coming end. Stop what you're doing, just for a moment in time. Breathe in the glorious scent of gratitude and honor the memories that flood your heart, and skate away in gratefulness toward the rest of today and perhaps another tomorrow, until the sun eventually melts the pond and washes us all downstream to an unknown shore. Second one is called Listening to the Quiet. Christmas morning along the Thames River, just outside of London, beneath a sky of gunmetal gray and worn-out wishes, realizing life is about diminishing time and that love is the engine of survival. I sit alone with my thoughts, listening to the quiet of the pre-dawn darkness, overwhelmed by the wonder of it all, balancing on the precipice of time and place, breathing in the goodness that abounds. The silence speaks, the heart listens, the moon makes way for the sun, and so the day begins, as do I once again, as my words take me ever so gently to those special places where my heart wants to go. And I conclude with one called Words. Words expand and contract, they rise and fall, glow and glide, possessing the power to add, subtract, multiply, and so sadly divide. Be careful what you write. It's so often different from what you say, what you think, how you feel, and it's permanently imprinted with indelible ink. Like an artist's brush, words can fill the canvas with breathtaking vision, with 1,000 different colors and more meaning than color, more power than passing time. Words can change time. Words can change minds. Words can change hearts. Speak to me now with strong and powerful words. Thank you.
Incidentally,
is-
I was at the dentist today, And as I was getting ready for the procedure, my mouth was already open, wide open, waiting for the intrusion. This thought came to me. I looked a gifted horse in the mouth. It had dentures. It did. I've been playing around lately with the immigrant theme and the English language themes, and I'd like to read you a couple of poems on that subject. Okay, here it is. Adam Mickiewicz, a Polish romantic poet, while teaching at the Collège de France, had the misfortune to say, French is an easy language. It takes 3 days in France to master it. Apparently, Monsieur le Professeur, this is your second day in France, said one of his students. Ask any immigrant, the joke is always on us. To me, oh, by the way, the best sauerkraut in Seattle is on Aurora Avenue, 132nd at Oksana's, that's European Deli, right across from the big sign of the Office Depot, so you can't miss it. They make it themselves. Deliciosa. To me, English is full of pitfalls. Articles are one of my favorite ones I keep falling into a lot. How does one know whether a lion is a lion, or the lion, or lion? Regardless of the article or lack of it, it's one lion, this one or that one or the other one. But it's still the same lion. Let's ask 3 lions in a zoo how they feel about it. Lion is behind bars. A lion is behind bars. The lion is behind bars. To my understanding, the lions don't care much about the articles. They feel terrible because they are behind bars. And the articles don't make them feel any better. To me, the words dad and dad sound identical. One time I'd say my dad is dead, or by chance I get it right and say my dad is dead. It's quite possible that you hear me say dad is dead and dead is dead, which is axiomatic. The same is true with bad and bad. Is bad bad, or is bad bad? Or take bold and bald. One is careless while the other has the courage. Or take hat and head. Should I lose one, how would I know whether I lost my head or my hat? On a bad day, it's possible I might lose both.
Oh, yummy poetry. So this is a whip. This is a work in progress. I've not been writing one every day, but I might try to catch up on your prompts on pie, Chris. I'm in love with the shape of two. It's April yet again, with its foolish beginning. March got to have Easter this year, but some got to witness April's full solar eclipse. So many observances to count, so I won't. But with tax day approaching, I have some thoughts on numbers to share. The panoply of forms would be impressive if they weren't so vexing to tick the right boxes on so many lines of the forms from a year of money spent and earned, no spouse, no dependents, tallies of budgets and colored graph expenses, rows and columns of calculations, tabulations, outflow, in-go, insurance, deductions, selections, donations. All the while my poet's senses wander on the self-contained zero and its binary mate, the equally independent wholeness of the mighty one. Two has its charm, mom and dad, partnerships had. Too many, too few, the two-lane country road still lays ahead. 3 doth a crowd make, visually half an 8. Isosceles triangle, Holy Trinity. For 4 is a jolly good fellow, a sassy one with its hand on its hip, for sure. Abe's a 5-spot, Tiburon's boardwalk markets, 5 and dime, pixie sticks, 3 for a nickel. 6 isn't sick unless you sick a gnarly dog on it. The O's arced, the zeros arced, asana hand, another wave. Kurosawa's 7th Samurai, 7-11 summer sticky slurpy fingers, the quantum of snow's mining dwarves. Prufak asked, do I dare to eat a peach? I was hungry, so I ate and ate. 8 days a week. I love you, I love you, I love you. A couple of stacked 0 acrobats. Number 9, number 9, number 9. When 6 was 9, 6's yin partner spooning 9's yang member. But I'm in love with the shape of 2. We push and pull like a magnet do. Then there's the decimal point, that little period that makes a big difference depending on its placement. I wish us all many happy returns. Apologies to Ed Sheeran, thanks to the Beatles, Akira Kurosawa, J. Alfred Prufrock, and the Jimi Hendrix. And this one is from my book, Unique Like Everyone. Came out last year, is still available. Air of Grace. Early morning mists persists quietly as what rises from great falls roaring. Strong winds wind, grab hold, release, reshape the sands on shores of sea. Driftwood drifts in to beachfront rearing, while a lowering horse on hind foot rises. 2 squadrons of relaxed pelicans look out. The west setting sun dawns east, no doubt. The steady trip on earth or in mind, inland frontiers, imagination sublime. Each 2 ways for one to unravel, both linger wending, lasting travel. There's no saying when the rearranging will happen, the step back to look in, eyes closed, returned again, chin lifted, cadence measured, perception shifted. When freely untying one's self-imposed binds of mind, often called expectations, laces once double knotted by insecurity on sensible shoes, most assuredly. Maybe it will be organically, when on a knee, knelt on a path, or in a bath, when you'll untie the tangled knots of your own thoughts. With gait of walk reframed, you'll then move on. Any uncertainties, straightforward like an early dawn's mist, Along the way, later in the day, by sun's heating, daughter, you'll salute the sole skipper of the moon tide's ride, and with an air of grace having forged your gate, its new glide. Thank you. Mike Hickey.
I dedicate this poem to a friend of mine I hadn't seen in a while. Her name is Tanisa, and we used to work together back in the mid-'90s at the Seattle Times. I was a grad student at the UW and working there part-time, and I used to do things to amuse her when things were slow. So anyway, one day, ladies, do you remember the Wonder Bra? Tanisa wore a Wonder Bra to work. She's very proud of her Wonder Bra. So the next day, I brought a piece of cardboard with a pinhole in it, so I advised the people in my department, don't look directly at her. It might cause severe retinal damage. Anyway, so this is for you if you're out there, Tanisa. This is inspired by a friend of mine, Tyrone, who I'm on a poetry Zoom with on Sundays. And so it's a two-part poem, just reading one, but it's in two parts. It's called The Lucky Laundromat. They say in springtime, a man's fancy turns to love and all that. Well, this is like not so young of a man, or a woman in that case. Part one, what the hell happened to you? A, you're not exactly sure when all this occurred, but one day you wake up and suddenly realize on the sperm of the moment that you've hit the age, that advanced stage where your erogenous zones are more like erroneous zones. Your testosterone is tested, your phallus is a fallacy, your man musk hit the dust, and what was once a proud erection is now nothing more than a melancholy cocktail mixed of one part sadness, one part isolation, and a double dash of bitters. Of course, there's always been something called impotency. Hemingway routinely had a character with this affliction, fighting bulls in Spain or spearing marlins on the high seas, while chain smoking cigarettes. But the word impotency is now referred to as erectile dysfunction, which for some reason sounds a hell of a lot worse. And don't even get me started on Peyronie's disease, a medical condition which no man wants, much less have named after him. B, in 2003, your virility went viral at an underground strip club in Grand Rapids, Michigan. But your virility hasn't been the same since. Back then, you were convinced and all cocksure there was a QR code on your genitalia. But truth be told, no one's clicking on your dick pics these days. Your bivouac has been bombarded by an enemy frigate. Your manhood emasculated, pheromones MIA, hormones AWOL. And let's face it, bro, the jig is up for this gigolo. C. The thing is, you're not crazy, you're lazy. Your macho is eating nachos, your machismo hooked on Doritos. Your manly valor has become a Fig Newton of your imagination. Your semen is a sailor lost at sea, and despite the palmetto cologne, your heat-seeking trouser trout is still stuck in 2003 in that underground strip club in Grand Rapids, lost in a pile of brassieres and G-strings. But remarkably, despite all this, despite the seemingly insurmountable odds, the optimism in your brandy snifter remains half full, clinging to the hope that earlier this morning in the Lucky Laundromat, when that cute brunette winked at you, she did it because she liked you, not because she had a speck of dust in her eye. Part two, that's what she said. Lest she be listed last of the lonely hearts hopelessly lost in lust, Evelyn goes down the street to the Lucky Laundromat, where she first met Eddie Spaghetti, her late husband, the Prince of Pasta. Her love, her passion, the spark to her anarchy, the reason for treason. And since he passed, what did she ever get with the mindset of playing hard to get with the LA Jet Set? What divine intervention did she receive from a society intent to deceive about the purity of Puritans, a society that declared non-Puritans would not pass go or retreat to limbo? Non-Puritans would say hello to the stepladder in Dante's Infernos. Non-Puritans would recoup not a single cent of last month's rent And just then, the man at the laundromat asks if she needs any quarters because he has plenty extra. And she blushes like a debutante at the Sweet 16 dance, a smile on her sundial, and graciously, demurely, extends her open palm, her tender right hand. Thank you.
So, I have one poem. It's kind of long. I don't usually write long poems. And it's old. I wrote this poem in 1998. Absence-minded. As dawn seeps in to rouse me from my dreams, plaintive coos of mourning doves voice the ache in my heart. I throw back the covers, abandon the bed, make my way to the espresso machine, jumpstart my day remembering you always preferred tea. I sit at the window, lost in your absence, watch the world around me move toward its workaday groove until soft sun turns to glare, mocks my solitude, challenges my fortitude. It's mornings I miss you most. My days are spent sculpting sentences, working words, finding clever new ways to turn a phrase, encourage commerce, please my clients, pay my bills. I do this in fits and starts, for part of me remains held by you, spellbound, wound up in the mystery that you could be but memory. Come days dimming, the sky displays a rosy glow, and in spite of commuter traffic clickety-clack, the neighborhood coming back, peace descends. As night jasmine perfumes the air, I describe that last diatribe to a sister friend. How I watched you make your way down the stairs in silence. Your silence wide as late summer sky. She sighs as a breeze sets a balcony chime singing. Chill seeps into my flesh. It's evenings I miss you most. Night stretches before me. I write, pace, see the reflection of your face in my window, an apparition of the heart. Sleep calls, I resist, loath to surrender to a double bed made single. I can't find a single reason we didn't work, a single reason to be single, to be without you. There's circumstance, other romances, that maddening dance men and women do, but we loved each other, you and I. We knew each other across time and didn't know each other at all. I want to shout this to the moon hanging low in the sky, so low she's apt to fall into my window, and I fall into bed exhausted. It's nights I miss you most. Sleep betrays me middle of the night. I wake with a start, the pace of my heart quickened from dreams I can't remember. They're there, but not, like moving through gossamer, ship sounds and fog, you. It's midnight, I miss you most. A new day, hummingbirds dart and play at the window, their small, fragile bodies, pure energy. I can almost hear the roar of their delicate, iridescent wings, yet their motion appears so effortless. Mesmerized by the magic of their movement, I momentarily forget. It's mornings I miss you most. Thank you.
I'm Jodi Dills. I publish under the name Margot Jodine Dills. That's to make my mother happy. May she rest in peace. This first poem I'm going to read is about my mother. It says, Mom came to visit. Mom came to visit last night. She's not been here in a while. Dad never comes anymore. It's been years, actually. I wonder where he's gone. In the dream, I come home from a long walk down a white sandy hill with walls and stucco houses to the north and the south. I open the door of my own little strange home to find Mom sitting in a chair at a wooden table peeling an orange. There's a dainty embroidered tablecloth with lace edges, crocheted and tatted. What are you going to wear? She asks. I like the long gold skirt with the sparkly top, she said. I haven't thought about it, I said, and heaped my bags on a counter next to the sink where the faucet had a perpetual drip. I worked to turn it off a little bit. It was a habit. It's such an honor for them to invite you, she said. Who? I asked. I turned around and she was gone. But I can still smell the spitting juice of the orange. It stings my eyes. The boy with the red cello case. He attracts friendships like a canine, leading a shaggy pack through sunlit, worn paths that stretch into shadowed alleys, deep corners, and untraceable maps. Familiar faces, children of the world. His buddies keep his secrets, come and go, let him blend, do what they're told, listen, maintain silence, even when he brings a gun to school. The color of his cello case is red, that of music when it catches fire. He sends the bow across the strings on journeys, trips that don't always invite passengers. He has a special talent, say his teachers. Melodies tough to put into words, explanations for the tone deaf. At the guitar store, he likes to pose with the cherry red Stratocaster, though he'll never pursue an attachment, knowing how the cello has been especially chosen for him until he brings a gun to school. The camera loves him. His lean that settles on one foot, then on the other, back again with a grin that sparks excitement, a future, a place to settle, to roam, a possibility. A fashion plate, a rogue, a teen with a beat, a cherub with a cleft in his nose who owns a mother's adoration, a native, a foreigner, a boy far from home, a kid in his bedroom, caught on celluloid, living forever. A smile, a smile that's sincere, not a smirk, for there's a rascal there, a joker, a comic with an innocent twist, until he brings a gun to school. To shine like the point in the auditorium where all the lights converge, where all the noise is, where the compass position is always north, where he cannot hear the roar above his dreams, where the faces are a blur because of the brightness in his eyes, where the road never narrows but widens to make space for what's coming, where he is too young to know he is not as old as he wants to be until he brings a gun to school. Thank you. All have a good night.
So I I don't write a ton, but you guys have actually really inspired me to start writing poetry more. So yeah, I've had a really big year, really busy. I've done a lot. I got married. We moved to West Seattle. My husband and I are building this really sweet little life. I just recently got into graduate school. Super exciting. So I don't know, everything's just kind of come together, and I've been reflecting a lot, just on like my life and the gratitude I have for it. And this is something I actually wrote to my younger self. It's called I Did It. Surrounded by chaos and disorder, hurt and fear, I know it's hard to see that a better future is near. It won't be easy. In fact, it's going to get harder. Don't be afraid. Just remember your armor. You're tougher than you think. I'm sorry that you'll have to be. But someone had to heal the pain rooted deeply in your family tree. You're right, it's not fair. And I know that this feels scary. This is such a great burden that you're being asked to carry. But you must keep dreaming and chasing after them ferociously. I promise you, you'll become exactly who you're supposed to be. There will be days you feel alone and days you feel defeated, but nothing will feel better than getting to tell your younger self